I've been telling you about my adventure this summer with my partner Burt sailor, rocketeer, builder, artist, actor, and all-around best friend. He's played a key role in my trip to Plélo and my life for the past 29 years. You've been hearing me talk about Burt, but now in this episode, you'll hear directly from him.
Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's liberation celebration and learn why Americans and Bretons celebrate their shared DNA from World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944.
Having completed a wonderful cruise in the Cornwall, Devon area on the English Channel in England, we visited with friends, had a wonderful time, and decided that we can extend this to take in some of Europe. It turned out we took in a lot more of Europe than we thought we were going to take in. But as Moustache used to say, that's another story. We arrived in Dover, and it was beautiful. The next day, of course, it was typical Dover. Almost a full gale, blinding rain, wind blowing, and we were boarding the ferry for Calais. Turned out to be an interesting ride. English coast disappeared into the haze, and pretty soon the French coast appeared.
As Burt and I crossed the channel from Dover to Calais, we enjoyed a luxurious ride on a huge channel ferry. During our crossing, we easily weathered a storm and heavy seas. I didn't mind. I ran out to the deck and let my hair fly in the wind and rain. It reminded me of that first exciting ride on the Queen Mary and all the sailing adventures that followed. Everything from Girl Scout sailing to even crewing with Burt and William on William's 42-foot Carter one-ton sailboat from Galveston all the way to Australia. But as the ferry arrived in Calais, I turned my attention away from the white cliffs of Dover and onto our much-anticipated driving tour of Europe.
And off we went with Google set on no tolls.
I won't try to explain the vagaries of driving the rental car while navigating roundabouts through Europe on our way to Prague. Bert's a cautious and amazing driver, and we arrived safely.
And off we went, headed towards Prague, which was our eventual destination for the first part of our trip. I am half Czechoslovakian by heritage, or so I thought. I could be German, I could be Polish, we don't know. But the grandparents came from the old country of Czechoslovakia.
He did get in touch with his Czech roots, sort of, only to find out later that he's Polish or Australian or French. Well, we didn't. We didn't know what he was. He's an American. We enjoyed beautiful scenery, fabulous food, lovely accommodations, and everyone treated us well. By all accounts, the trip to Prague and staying on the canal boat on the river downtown was a great success. After weeks of travel, we were in great spirits as we turned the rental car back toward the English Channel for the return ferry crossing to England. On our drive back to France, through Austria and Germany and the countryside, we found everything unbelievably beautiful and incredibly orderly and perfectly groomed. After days of fast-paced traveling, we decided to slow down and take the back roads. No Autobahn for us, no siree. We wanted to see the countryside, and indeed we did. We figured the best way to do that was to enter no toll roads into the GPS. We didn't think to change the GPS instruction as we began our drive through the Alps in Austria and Italy. Little did we know that Google took us at our word and routed us to avoid all toll roads until we ended up going over the Alps.
All of the people, the roads were wonderful. The scenery was unbelievable. We had a shower once, and the rest of the time it was just absolutely gorgeous. Until the no toll roads programmed into Google directions reared its ugly head.
At first, we thought it a little bizarre and that we were on a road the width of our driveway with drop-offs to the valleys below at over 10,000 feet. The incredible beauty around us made me joyfully oblivious to the danger as I spurred Burt on. I always get to enjoy the excitement as Burt worries for us both. Only this time, the hybrid Renault began overheating as the road became more and more narrow. We had to keep stopping to let the car cool down. We had no idea who would come around the bend next, or how a tractor or wagon or even a truck could get past us. We finally made it to the top of the mountain, and the paved road unexpectedly ended.
And as we got to the top, about 3,000 meters, wheezing, the car about to break down and overheat, it turned to gravel. Then it turned to gravel and sand. Then it said, turn here. We looked around and there was no place to turn. There was a sheer cliff on one side, a forest on the other. This must be a mistake. Let's go a little farther up this now dirt and gravel road and find the turn. Well, what we found was the top of the mountain. There was no place to go after that. Turning back around, I go, we must have missed it. So when we got to where Google said the road was, we parked the vehicle and we walked over and looked, and it was a cow path.
I couldn't believe it when Bert actually wanted to drive our overheating rental car on the weed-covered wagon wheel ruts that substituted for a road. He didn't want to turn around. He was fed up with the ridiculous situation we found ourselves in. He wanted to get over the mountain now. But we weren't sailing, and this wasn't our sailboat, nor was the wind in our favor. Nonetheless, he was determined to drive precariously down the backside of the Alps on a wagon road. For the first time in 29 years, it was me saying, turn around. Once safely arriving back down the Alps, we set out for our B&B. Finding our B&Bs in Europe was often difficult, especially when we were speaking a different language. Often the owner was not available and there was no receptionist to greet us. It was usually an obstacle course, just trying to find the location, much less the lockbox or the front door. More than once we found ourselves wandering around the village, knocking on doors and creating a commotion, trying to find our bed for the night. The neighbors were always kind and sympathetic, but most didn't have a clue what we were talking about and just motioned us on up the hill or down the road. By the time we reached our idyllic B&B, it was nothing like advertised, but the sheets were clean and the water was running. Once again, we discussed that it might not be wise to extend our trip to Brittany, France. While I wanted to visit Plélo, where my father had served with Patton's Third Army, I began to feel that the additional drive to Plélo was not only unplanned, but shouldn't even be considered, because we were just too darn tired to keep going. The next morning, we enjoyed a pleasant and beautiful drive to Lago di Como. The opulence along its shores was unbelievable. The 5-hour boat ride down the lake was hot but fascinating. Tourists were everywhere, scrambling for a seat, anywhere. We began to regret having traveled in Europe in July. Had it not been for the little ship cruise, we would have never traveled during peak vacation season. We knew better. Not only was school out, but July and August are the traditional holiday months for everyone to beat the heat in European cities. The holiday rush became all too clear as we made the nightmare journey to the Italian Riviera. It was one of the hottest days on record with people crammed everywhere. We were playing dodge cars with all the traffic and crazy drivers. It was dangerous, and we were afraid we would wreck the rental car and ruin our chances of making our return flight home. It was all too much.
The next morning, we were ready to leave Italy. We just got there and we were ready to leave, deciding that we need to come back when everybody in Europe isn't there. And off we go. And this time we go, let's get on the tollway. Let's pay the money. Let's save the time. And we did. And it was magnificent. The roads were fabulous.
We decided not to go to Plélo, but just head back to the Channel ferry. We wanted to get to England as soon as possible for some much-needed R&R. After 4 weeks of intense travel in Europe, I decided to postpone the last-minute side trip to Plélo in Brittany, France.
Karen mentions Plélo and says I've kind of given up on it. I just don't know if I have the energy or the wherewithal to go to this little village and present the mayor the documents of my father. And that resonated because I was not committed to either. I was pretty much along for the ride for a while. So I decided to turn north. And we get to Beaune, which is the home of Burgundy, and I've been there before. let's stay in Beaune. And that's when I realized that the distance to the area where Plélo is in Brittany was about the same distance as going to Calais.
At the time, I did not realize how important it would be for me to deliver my father's documents before returning back home to Texas. But I would soon find out. Be sure to join me for the next episode of You Were There, Karen Beth. Learn why Britons and Americans celebrate their shared DNA from World War II. Learn what and who was waiting for us when we arrived unexpectedly in Plélo, France on a Sunday afternoon.